The Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for Thursday, June 3rd. If everybody please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I miss Member Estrada's.
Yes.
Hoorah! Hopefully he has safe travels on his journey currently. All right. Roll call. Let's get that started. Natalie?
Member Peters,
I am here.
Member Benedict, Member Estrada, Member Dugan,
Here.
Vice Chairman McBride,
Here.
Chairman Miller.
Here. All right. And Director Tice, do we have any changes to the agenda? You're gonna have to yell, so no.
Batteries.
Nope. We'll get there. That means there's a yes, everybody, that's waiting in hopeful anticipation.
Okay. So a couple of things. First is that item 2 on your agenda, the 3 applications by the Seventh-day Adventist Church will be pulled off the agenda this evening, and we'll reschedule them for your July 1st meeting. So item 2, those 3 applications will be postponed. So if there's anyone here this evening for those, we will not be hearing those. A couple quick staff announcements for you. We have a couple new planning staff members with us this evening that I'd like to introduce to the commission. First off, we have Noah Schumerth. Noah's here. Noah was an intern with us for about 8 months and did some great work on the general plan. He had made significant contributions, and recently Noah was promoted to be an assistant planner. He's working for us part-time. He's going to be with us for a couple more months, and tonight he's actually going to be presenting his first planning commission case. So wanted you to know the new face there with Noah. And we also have a new planner that we hired to fill Laura Blakeman's position. As you know, Laura retired actually about a year ago now, maybe over a year ago. So we were lucky enough to hire Jacqueline Sarnowski. Jacqueline's right here. And Jacqueline actually has been residing in Casa Grande for most of her life, and so maybe all of her life. And so we're really happy to have a local resident that we could hire as a planner to join our planning staff. So Jacqueline will be before you in the near future. I don't know if July or August, but we're giving her applications and projects right away. So with that, those are the changes and notations.
Awesome, thank you. And welcome Noah and Jacqueline. Excited to have you guys on. And thank you for all the work you did on the general plan there.
Thank you.
All right, next up, approval of the minutes. Everybody get a chance to review the minutes from last meeting?
Move to accept the minutes of the last meeting.
I have a motion and a second. Oh, I lost my. Okay, is she all right? Everybody, all in favor, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
I'll put a note over there. It says we passed.
She's got the recorded part of it, so we're good. I just hope she comes back before I have to call the vote, because then I got to remember all your names. Sorry. All right, so new business. Just before we get started, kind of a brief operations setup. So staff will come forward and present the agenda item. The commission will get the opportunity to ask any questions of staff, get any clarifications at that point. Once that's complete, we will ask the applicant and or their representative to come forward, give any additional information, clarification, answer any questions from the commission. Once that's completed, then we will invite the public to come forward. If anybody would like to speak to a specific agenda item, that would be the time to do so. We'll try and make sure that we bring up the appropriate, so if you have a question, we'll typically write it down, and then we'll get it answered, probably not while you're standing up there, but before we close the agenda item, if we're able to. And then, other than that, we'll move to new business. Number 1, public hearing and consideration request by LGI Homes, housing product DSA-21-00079.
Great. Well, thank you. I will be presenting DSA 21-00079 pertaining to an application by LGI Homes for 5 distinct floor plans with 3 elevations and 15 color schemes, a housing product for the Countrywalk Estates subdivision in Casa Grande. Oh, are we stuck? Stuck.
Technical difficulties. Give us a moment.
Okay, great. So as I said, or as I was saying, the application by LGI Homes pertains to 5 floor plans being offered for the Countrywalk Estates subdivision, where currently there are 33 vacant lots. These floor plans range from 1,560 square feet to 2,490 square feet. And there are 3 exterior elevations proposed for each plan and 15 distinct color schemes. The Countrywalk Estates subdivision is located in the northern portion of Casa Grande, near the city limits on the near I-10. It is just south of the Dominion Creek subdivision, where it's connected by both streets and open space. This pertains to the 33 vacant lots remaining, which are highlighted. There are 32 on the eastern half of the neighborhood. There's a lone vacant lot near the entrance of the subdivision, near Countrywalk Way, on the western side of the subdivision. This housing product is proposed for all 33 of those remaining sites. Here are photos which demonstrate the current site conditions. The eastern portion of the subdivision, as you can see in the center photo, is completely undeveloped. And I included 2 examples of existing housing product which were built by Countrywalk Homes Incorporated before 2007. So this subdivision, Countrywalk Estates, was annexed into the city in 1999 as part of the Copper Mountain Ranch annexation. It was rezoned R1 with a condition of record stating that an HOA must be created for Countrywalk Estates, which is currently active, and that the housing product that is submitted for that subdivision must meet the 2003 PAD residential design standards, in particular sections 2A and 2B, which regulate the residential architectural standards for homes. In addition, this condition of record also stated that open space amenities, paths, and sidewalks must connect into extensions with surrounding subdivisions and have certain conditions in terms of the quality that those must be built to. In 2004, a preliminary plat was approved for the subdivision, and in 2005, a final plat was approved. And in addition, there was housing product submitted by Countrywalk Homes Incorporated for the first 34 homes in the subdivision, and that was submitted in early 2005. So these are front elevations for each of the 5 homes being proposed. They are the Guadalupe, the Luna, the Roosevelt, the Tortolita, and the Willow. And those numbers largely pertain to the square footage proposed for each of those models. It's worth noting that the Guadalupe, the 1560, and the 1871, the 2034, the Roosevelt, do already exist in Casa Grande, in particular in the Mission Ranch and in the Ghost Hollow Estates neighborhoods, which currently have housing product built by LGI Homes. And this graphic here demonstrates each of the 3 elevation finishes that are proposed for each of those homes. And if you go to the next slide, you'll also see all of the other elevations for each of those homes as well, left, right, and rear. So the color scheme varies between each of those models, but this really gives you an idea of the massing and of the design of each of the floor plans and housing models being proposed. They also propose 15 color schemes for the 33 homes, in the subdivision. This will give you just an idea of a couple that are being proposed. If you click to the next slide, you'll notice that there's a pretty significant amount of stone being proposed on each of the finishes for these homes, which matches the existing conditions of the homes built by Countrywalk before 2007. It really uses earthen tones, but also uses accent colors, such as the ones you'll see on the leftmost color palette and the rightmost color palette, which are earthen tones, but that use an extra bit of color accent, which again matches the homes that already exist in that neighborhood. And again, the use of 15 color schemes really provides quite a bit of diversity with those homes. In addition, they're proposing 3 landscape packages, each which features a large tree and then a myriad of other smaller shrubs and bushes that, again, will largely fit the existing conditions in that neighborhood. So as stated, the condition of record states that all housing product in Countrywalk Estates is required to meet the standards of sections 2A and 2B of the residential design standards. So the remaining slides go through the conditions that this housing product must meet. In terms of housing plans and elevations, it met 4 of the 5 criteria that we lay out in those residential design standards. However, in terms of diversity and uniqueness in elevations and color schemes, we believe that the housing product being submitted did not meet these requirements. Click. And that is because of the lack of fenestration or window placement on 3 of the left elevations, in particular for the Luna, the Roosevelt, and the Willow plans. There are no windows provided on that left side. So we state that a condition of approval should be that on the left elevations featured below, the 3 featured on this slide, it must feature at least 1 window, and that window must have the ledges, pop-outs, or detailing that would meet the standards of our residential design guides or standard, and that the condition is necessary in order to secure approval of future standard plans submitted for this subdivision. The remainder of the criteria for roofing, for covered patios, and for garages, we believe have been met by the housing product put forth by LGI and their very comprehensive application that they submitted. And this is some of also the recommended standards. The 4 of the 7 must be met in that section, section 2B. They get to choose which housing standards are met. So they met 4 of them, and in addition, they had what we believed met an applicant's choice criteria, which is that they provided a pretty significant front porch detailing on 3 of the models, which is pretty unique for Casa Grande, and also it really took advantage of the 60-foot wide homes being proposed on this site, or the remaining 33 lots. So there were no public comments or inquiries received. And this is the posting details that we had for public notification about the development on the site. And again, in short, we would like to recommend DSA 21-00079 for approval with the condition that the applicant will provide revised revisions to the left elevations that ensure that a window is provided on each of those left elevations that lack one currently, that it meets the requirements that we have for fenestration detail, pop-outs, ledges, things of that nature, and that those are accurately reflected in all of the standard plans that are submitted to the city. And then, in addition, there is landscaping that needs to be completed that has to be completed within 30 days of the certificate of occupancy for the home, and that the plot plan submittal will identify color scheme, elevation style, and plan number for planning staff that accurately reflects the application being put forth. Thank you.
Well done for your first presentation.
Thank you.
Any questions for the staff? Member Benedict.
I guess that your fenestration requirement, I mean, okay, I wouldn't personally I like lots of light and I like lots of windows. Any other comments that you would make to expound on the reason for requiring it?
Yes, and I apologize for any lack of detail that I provided.
No
So,
problem, I just want to understand better.
It's true. So on the in the interior lots, that becomes less of a problem because it's largely not visible from the street. However, it becomes more of a problem when we're dealing with corner lots and we're dealing with lots that are against landscaping, which is quite a few of these lots that these homes are being built on. Having those blank facades against that against those areas really can detract from the overall appearance and quality of the neighborhood. So we believe that it is appropriate to add that condition to ensure that it doesn't, again, detract from the overall quality of the neighborhood and that it doesn't create any conflicts with surrounding lots pertaining to just having a blank wall, in addition to obviously other walls on the site being present, and that's what you're looking at.
Good, good answer.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about which specific review criteria that you think is applicable to your concern that you think they're not meeting and need to add the windows to meet?
So,
Do you have a specific review criteria?
right, so that condition is related to the review criteria that they provide a diversity of housing elevations and color schemes. So the color schemes is obviously met. However, we believe that that diversity of those elevations, at least in our recommendation, also pertains to, at least perhaps to a lesser degree, but still pertains to other elevations of the home, and ensuring that there is a diversity of elevations on each side. And we believe that providing 3 of the 5 homes without windows on those sides and just being blank and largely having the same geometry fails to meet that diversity of elevations.
So,
Good answer.
sorry, well, that's okay, but I'm gonna jump on this
was gonna say, I
bandwagon
gotta
and
follow.
drive this thing home
got
here a little
I'm
bit, sorry.
Noah.
You opened up a door here.
Yeah, I got one too on it.
Go ahead then, I'll let you go first here, Member McBride.
Windows, the size of them. My house, for example, has 3 almost like gun slot windows on the side of the house. That's it on the whole entire side. Is there a requirement? We're going to ask them how big windows, because my windows are this big. Because it just says window.
Right. We usually, to my knowledge, we wouldn't have a requirement to say it has to be a, double pane, large window, or that would largely have to be worked with the applicant.
So this size window would be fine.
In theory, right, because again, we're talking mostly about diversity of elevations.
Well,
and
it's going
especially with the
to
different-
break it up. I understand that.
Right, and
That's-
the goal is that with those 3 elevations, I will, having reviewed the housing product, those 3 floor plans do have significant differences in the room distribution on that left side, and that does create opportunities in terms of providing, say, a garage window on one, a small window that's an accent in another room on another. There's the opportunity to, again, more break up those walls and really just provide that diversity that we look for on each home elevation. And just so that there aren't completely blank walls facing open spaces and are clearly visible.
Thank you.
Anybody else? It's just my turn now. Okay. Couple things. One, if we have an issue with a corner lot, then I think the condition could have just been that only specific elevations with the left side should have been designated to that corner lot. But outside of that, they've met the requirements, right? If you look through these different requirements, they had to meet 4 of 6. They met.
Yep.
1, 2, 3,
Yes.
4, 5, 6. They met. There's a bunch of these I think that were met, and I guess ultimately for me, it's their design, it's their house, it's their build. If not having a window there makes it more affordable or sells more product,
Keeps the sun out.
or keeps the sun out, keeps the utility costs lower, we're determining it's only going to be visible on, if you pull that, I'd have to pull up the map again, but it's like it's a half of the lots because it's only the ones that have the left facing out, right? The left that faces another house.
Right.
And then you have the problem with tight setbacks to where you said, well, you put a window there, and then that window's looking into the window across the way. Well, this doesn't have that problem anymore, right? And so, my personal preference or opinion would be accept them as presented, because I don't think it deters from the driving down Ridgeview Trail or driving, and seeing a line of just solid-faced houses, because I'm not going to be able to see deep into the breakup of that wall when it's in. Sure. I'm making that choice for you. No, I'm just kidding. Member Benedict.
In fact, my house, one side is exposed. And we have maybe, I don't even know my house, one window and the little slit for the bathroom kind of a thing. It's a huge blank. I mean, I feel kind of sorry for the neighbors on the other side. I haven't done anything about it, but, so I get his point. I mean, it is my house is an eyesore, I guess is what I'm admitting. And so I think, to me, there's some validity to the concern.
Sure.
I hear what you're saying about, well, then let's be specific about where you want those. I mean, if the concern is to the open space, I'm with you about making minimal requirements as we can,
Sure.
and still have a great community. And so I hear what you're saying about that.
And you're going to have a 6-foot block wall. You're going to have a number of other things. If it's on a corner, if it's abutted to a green belt, what vegetation is there? I mean, there's a whole slew of things that we're factoring in that we may never even notice that this is a blank wall. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you.
But I'm not the one building it, and I'm not the one trying to sell it. So that's, I guess.
Let's hear from that guy.
All right. Any other questions for staff before we go that direction? All right, seeing none. Applicant and/or their representative like to come forward, speak to this agenda item.
Chairman Miller, I believe that the applicant for this item is on Zoom.
Oh, perfect.
Miss Angela Hicks.
Correct.
Fantastic. Well, welcome via Zoom. Could you please?
I did. Can you hear me?
Yeah, please
Yeah.
introduce yourself.
This is Robert Huntley. I'm the area construction manager for LGI Homes. Angela Hicks is on the Zoom as well, if we have any additional questions for her.
Fantastic. Would you like to, hopefully you've been listening to some of the conversation, would you like to give us any additional information in regards to your project and any further clarification?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we actually are, we're bringing in some of our Tucson product. We do our due diligence before we go into these communities, and obviously our goal is to match the existing homes that are in there as close as possible. So we decided we bring in some of our product from Tucson, which is a larger product. It's more that ranch style home that's going to match the existing homes that are in that community. Offering those 3 elevations, we do have a brick, stone, and a full stucco option. And then obviously our 15 different color schemes. Touching on the window feature or a window conversation that you guys were discussing, we'll look into that. If you guys decide we need to have some windows installed or on these plans, then we'll go ahead and do it. My only concern is, obviously with these larger products, the Luna, the Roosevelt, and the Willow, creating a egress issue if we were to put an operable window. So our objective probably would be put some kind of picture window like the little 12 by 12 windows that are out there on the community. Our ultimate goal would be not to, but that's going to be up to you guys.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? No? Oh, all right. Well, thank you. We appreciate you being on Zoom. And
Thank you.
at this time, then, if there's no more questions for the applicant or staff, I will happily open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Please state your name and address for the record.
Jim Hamlin, 16784 Hopi Drive. Anyway, my concern on this,
Oh, hang on. I don't think the microphone's on.
Oh.
Give us one moment here. It helps us record it for minutes and all that other fun stuff later. We don't want council getting mad at us.
I've been in this area since 1998, and my concern is the quote-unquote green belt. Now, on my property also, I have over a quarter of a mile of property next to this. My property on my north side has Ghost Ranch, and they made a wash in there that was never there when it was desert. But they put a retention basin in at the time. And the city says, oh, yes, we have a couple dry wells in there, and it'll yeah, let's see. It took out my fence a couple times. It washed away several tons of dirt. I had to take a tractor out there and fix it all. And then when I did stack up a berm, the water backed up and broke the fence where they have the Dominion Creek now, and it washed into there, but there weren't any homes in there at the time. Now, next time around, there are homes in there, and I'm sure they'll get flooded. But this artificial wash, which is the green belt, ends right at the county line, and there's a home which is next to a piece of property I own at 1702 West Hopi Drive, and when they built Countrywalk, that was one part of the fence they didn't block. Put up a block fence, and of course there is one whole section along my property too that was never fenced. But if we haven't had a good rain in probably 4 or 5 years. But if we get a good rain, and plus having all these homes in there, none of this water is going to soak into the soil. It'll be going down this wash. And we have wash coming from the new subdivision, which I didn't know they were putting in until they put it in. And then it's also coming straight down from Ghost Ranch, and there's a home right at the end of it on Hopi, and there's no fence there or anything, and it'll take that home, to go visit Martha. I'll have to go just drive down the road and open her front door because she'll be out in the middle of the street. But I was hoping she'd come tonight, but some people are shy. I'm not. That's my big concern. This construction stuff. Sure, I have tons and tons of debris I have to pick up every day, but that happens. The only bad thing is people throwing their dog feces over the fence. And so far I've gathered it up, and I reported it to the city, but if it keeps occurring, then I'll throw it all back, only I'll throw it far enough so it'll be on the roof of their houses. I've even contacted HOAs, and they don't do anything about it. But that's beside the point. The wash is my concern. There's no retention basin or anything. It just stops right there at her home, at her fence, and it'll just come right on through. And there is no wash on the other side. It never was a wash. They just built one. So
Yep.
I don't know if anybody's taking this into consideration.
Just real quick on the map, so I understand, is it right where the white shaded, can you see it up there? Right at the corner?
I'm blind in
On the
one eye,
top?
so
Okay.
give me a second. Yeah, it's right in the center. There's towards the east end where it comes all the way across, and where you have the arrow back there, and it stops. And there's a home there, which is on Hopi.
Oh, okay.
And it stops right at the back. And they put a block fence all the way down, except for that area. And probably so the water could escape. If they're going to do that, put in a retention basin with some dry wells or something. Because with Ghost Ranch, this next time around, if they built Dominion Creek and you have all those people in there, if we have another good rain,
Yeah.
it's going to hit my 6-foot berm that I've built all the way across the back of my property. And, it'll go through the block fence again. And, you know, it may make a couple homes wet, but I've brought this up with the city many a time, and nothing's ever been done.
Okay.
It's, you know, I'm about ready to just build a concrete wall across the back of my property and say, okay, that's it. You know, and another thing I've had problem with are people backflushing their swimming pools and spas. I get all this white crust on my property. Sure. I have no idea what it is, but, you know, my property's pretty pristine. So I don't appreciate it. Anyway, any other questions of me?
Member McBride.
Okay.
I pulled up the map. I wasn't ignoring you. I pulled up the Google map so I could look and see what it looked like.
Okay.
The satellite one. Is your house the one directly south of that wash then?
No, it is not. No.
Which-
I own the property just to the east of that, and then I own the property to the east of that, and I own the property to the east of that, and then I own the property from that corner all the way back to Ghost Ranch, a quarter of a mile.
Okay.
And, you know, and then when the Great Depression came, I bought all the houses that were next to me on the east side, so I have some rentals too, but they aren't affected by this.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay. Any other?
Nope.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Josephine Fritz. I live at 3834 North Kodiak Court in Countrywalk. I don't see any of our neighbors here, but I'm here because I was #1 house in that community. And naturally, with everything that's going on with the different builders, we considerably look at the LG homes, we look at all the other developments in the area. We're trying to keep Countrywalk as pristine and as, what's the right word to say here, as upscale as we are, and not bring in a lower value of home. So we're naturally concerned with the construction, the green belts, if they're going to be taking care of the green belts that are there, because there are a number of green belts. I understand the gentleman behind me, because we walk the property all the time, and we see that one section has no concrete wall. And without a concrete wall there, they're looking through chain link fencing those houses that are going to be on that back wall that is not complete. And also the windows, I understand, I'd like to see windows on those sides so that it doesn't appear to be different than what the rest of our community looks like. And I'm concerned with the construction of what are they putting in. Are they putting in low E windows? Are they using 2x6 construction? Because when we built our houses, that's what they were. And naturally, our prices were higher then, so we want to keep. And I understand there's been the escalation in real estate values, but again, we don't want to outprice ourselves either.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Or anybody from Zoom? I think not. Okay, then I will close the public portion.
I have a question for Noah.
Sure.
Good.
Sure.
I was just looking at this again because the map that we have only shows to the property line, that one there. And when you look, is that green belt, does that flow water through it during rains? If it does, it looks like it hits somebody's wall right in the back. I just pulled it up on Google. And there's a wall right dead to this end of it, the south
Right.
side.
Now, this is where my tenure with the community is certainly going to come in conflict with what I can say here, just because we haven't gotten a good rain since I've worked here for 14 months.
I was
But
born here, so I've been here a while too. I've
But
seen a couple of good rains.
I can tell you that based on the site conditions, so it is designed, to be what has been mentioned, really an artificial wash. And that is correct, that there is not a wall there at that section of the development. That's true. As for whether it flows water, I have to imagine that it does. Perhaps my fellow planning staff could speak to that a little bit better from experience. But it certainly is designed with a pretty significant culvert, so it seems designed to carry a significant amount of water.
It could have flowed water prior to this development too, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Okay, so I just didn't know if this has changed the water flow?
So if I could maybe speak to that issue a little bit about how drainage is handled in subdivision designs. So there's two kinds of drainage. There's what we call historic flow, which is what might have been flowing there prior to the subdivision. And so our rules on historic flow, as well as the state law, is that developments have to accept historic flow at the historic entrance into their development, and then are allowed to release it at the historic point where it had exited. Can't increase the flow, but can have to actually convey historic flow through their development at the original points of entrance and exit. The next drainage rule is that as new developments occur and we create paved streets and driveways and homes, we increase the stormwater runoff, and we call that developed flows. That's additional stormwater runoff that's caused by development. Our rules require that developments retain 100% of that, so that there's no additional water added to the historic flow wherever that had occurred. So the answer to your question is that no, those green belts are not designed to be open space. To be drainage channels. If you look at the very bottom of that green belt, you can see and maybe James can point it out to us. There you go. That is actually a retention basin. So for those developed flows, and I believe that does need some work on the dry wells to make it perform better. It may actually be overflowing because it may not be draining properly. Dry wells really don't increase the carrying capacity of basins very much. And they actually just allow the basin to drain so they don't have water standing long-term for mosquitoes and other kinds of problems. So hopefully that answers your question on how the historic flows and developed flows are handled.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Member Benedict, by all means, join in the conversation.
Just to clarify, did I hear you say that you don't believe that is the historic exit?
No, I did not say that. I said that the state law and our regulations require it to be discharged at the historic exit.
Right.
I have no knowledge. I haven't read the drainage report for this. I'd have to look at it to see what the historic exit was and whether or not it occurred here or some other location. So I don't know where the historic exit was.
Right. Any other questions? Member Peters? Kind of quiet over there? Soaking it all in?
Yep.
All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Member Dugan?
I make a motion to approve housing project DSA-20-0079 for Countrywalk Estates with the following conditions, but I also would recommend that the staff works with LGI Homes for checking the flood area and make sure everything is correct.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and second. I would have any discussion.
Okay, how are we going to make sure that
Thank you.
they work together to do this if we don't say you have to do this to come to a resolution before, we come to a resolution now before we say, it's up to you guys just to talk it out.
Where's legal when you need them?
So actually, the city attorney is on call.
Oh, sweet.
And I could text him and get him here. But let me just say this, is that drainage is not a criteria of housing product. You're really reviewing architectural designs at this point, right? Subdivision's already been approved. However, our stormwater code requires that land developers and HOAs maintain the drainage facilities and structures in their subdivision as originally designed. So we will review the drainage report, we will review the drainage facilities that are supposed to be in this subdivision and ensure that they are properly installed and maintained, regardless of what your motion is. We've heard it, we'll do that. You can keep it in your motion. It's not really enforceable because it's architectural review, but we will follow up to make sure that the drainage is constructed and maintained in accordance with the approved drainage plan and report.
Where's voting on the houses today?
What?
Where's voting on the houses today?
Who's voting on houses? Any other discussion? No? I felt like you were going to say something there, dude.
Yeah.
No? All right. Well, with no other discussion then, I guess, Natalie, I'll have you call the roll.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Member Benedict,
Yes.
Member Dugan,
Yes.
Vice Chairman McBride,
Yes.
Chairman Miller,
Because I get to do this, because it's already going to be approved, I'm going to vote no on the basis of, I would have preferred a recommendation of approval based on the initial application with no window. Motion approved.
I have little windows.
Huh?
You said 1-foot windows.
Sure.
I like that. I
That's
have
okay.
those. I
That's
have
all right.
those.
1-foot windows, I don't care what's out there. All right. That one's been removed. We're jumping to number 3. All right, next up, public hearing and consideration of requests by Mark Reddy and Kyle Rochello of RVI Planning for DSA 21-00012, major amendment to the Los Prados PAD.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Planning Commissioners. So the specifics of the request entail amending 16.4 acres of the Los Prados PAD to repurpose the multifamily portion of the PAD and a part of the commercial and office designated portions to allow for the construction of a 191 unit build to rent single-family rental development. What that development will consist of is similar to what you've seen on a couple of other proposals in front of you recently. It's going to be comprised of single and 2-story homes, ranging from approximately 700 to 1,200 square feet. Although these are all rented and it would be a walled community and maintained by and owned by one property management company, it will have the feel of a single-family home community in that each of these units will have enclosed private backyards. Here's a little snapshot of the variety of housing that will be provided. There's 5 different floor plans overall, 2 different elevation styles per floor plan, and each home is afforded a enclosed private outdoor area with a 6-foot CMU wall. So the specifics of the request tonight is to simply amend the PAD. Currently on the left, you see the multifamily designated portion exists to the southern portion of the PAD. lies to the west of Via del Cielo Road, and it borders the Walmart property further to the west. The revision would expand that area from what is currently almost 10 acres to a 16.4 acre site, but also the density would drop. Currently, the PAD allows just under 16 dwelling units per acre. This project would be just under 12 dwelling units per acre. There's been a lot of development activity in this area recently. If you recall, I believe it was last month, Whataburger was in front of you with their request for approval of a major site plan. And soon, Planning Commission will be considering a major site plan request by Aldi's grocery store. Both of those development proposals are taking place within the designated commercial area of Los Prados, which is not changing. And so with this project coming on, the single-family rental product, it will result in a complete build-out of the Los Prados PAD. Again, this is just a comparison of the original figure ground that was provided in the Los Prados PAD, where you saw it was really sort of designed for more of a traditional apartment complex layout. The bungalows on Florence, although some do consider it multifamily and that it's multiple dwellings on a singular parcel, it is somewhat of a hybrid between traditional apartments and a traditional single-family neighborhood, in that even though they are all rented and it's gated, similar to an apartment complex, you have individual detached dwelling units. I do want to point out on this graphic that since last month when we were considering Whataburger, all three developers met with the city to work out some better connectivity issues. And so now there has been a plan, and you'll see this more so with the upcoming major site plan submittal for this project in Aldi's, that there will be a entrance drive now extending from Florence directly in front of this project. So this project will have a front door, so to speak, for enhanced circulation for all three users, Aldi's, Whataburger, and the bungalows. When reviewing criteria for planned area developments and amendments to them, there's the criteria is displayed in front of you, and the staff report goes into greater detail insofar as how all of these criteria have been addressed. I'm going to just talk about these specific highlighted items. The rest of the items are important, and the staff report goes into them. However, I do want to note that a lot of these come into play more specifically at the time of major site plan review. Planning Commission is not considering the major site plan this evening. It's actually going to be brought forward to you at the next meeting. So tonight you're just considering whether it's appropriate to revise the zoning to allow this single-family rental product. The first criteria I want to talk about is the relationship of the plan elements to conditions both on and off the property. So really what that criteria pertains to is about compatibility with what's surrounding the site. I do want to note that to the south of Los Prados is planned multifamily, and there is a sliver of existing single family a little bit to the west. And so that's probably the area where there's the most concern. However, the PAD does propose that there's going to be a 25-foot rear setback, which is actually greater than the rear setback for the existing single family. And staff sees this as a fairly compatible use because the type of multifamily that's being proposed are in the form of detached single-family dwellings. So it's going to have a very similar appearance, at least from the view of the backyards of the existing single-family residential development. Also, with this project coming online and some other development proposals further to the east, there is a plan to extend Via del Cielo Road into the Sierra Ranch neighborhood that collector road would meet up with another collector road known as Sierra Parkway to enhance circulation throughout the existing and proposed developments. With regard to the conformance to the city's general plan, this site actually sits within two land use designations per the 2030 general plan. The northern third of it sits within the community corridor designation, and the southern 2/3 sit within the neighborhoods designation. The neighborhoods land use allows up to 20 dwelling units per acre, whereas in the community corridor, it allows even higher density. They're proposing, however, 12 dwelling units per acre, so it is compatible with both land use designations. When looking at the criteria regarding zoning, that's the area that probably requires the most conversation. So as a PAD, this development would be subject to the 2003 edition of the Residential Design Standards for Planned Area Developments. It's a document that is required to be applied to all PADs, and it deals with standards such as open space allotment, front yard landscaping. It sets forth minimum lots or space sizes and widths, side yard setbacks, and also sets forth criteria regarding a minimum number of house plans and color schemes that have to be provided. That document does allow an applicant to come forward to Planning Commission and Council to request alternative designs to stray from the strict standards that are imposed by that document. It provides the opportunity for an applicant to speak to 4 potential exceptions, and staff believes the following 2 exceptions apply to this request. Letter A is when you have an infill housing development on a parcel of land between 5 and 50 acres, which this is. It does qualify for some departure from the residential design standards. And then exception C talks about a development proposal that's so unique that strict conformance of the requirements would be counterproductive to achieving the diversity and creativity and the sustainability sought within the PAD request. And this truly is a unique product. It is, like I mentioned, a hybrid between a traditional single-family neighborhood and a traditional apartment complex. And it does provide a unique opportunity to really bring in true medium-density development in the community, which would otherwise be restricted if you were to follow the letter of the 2003 design standards. So there's a number of requests that are deviating from the standards. The first one pertains to single-family lot and manufactured home space sizes. When you were to look at the, if you were to look at the 2003 residential design standards, it talks about no lot or space for a single-family home shall be less than 6,000 square feet. You have to have a minimum of 55-foot wide lot or space. So the requested alternative is actually per unit, they will provide 3,500 square feet of area. And their argument is that minimum lot width really shouldn't apply because there aren't going to be individual lots within this development, and it really should be treated more like a multifamily environment. And this is not a traditional single-family neighborhood where you have individual residential lots. This is more of a cluster fashion. Also, they are providing 30% open space where a traditional single-family neighborhood would only be required to provide 15% open space. Another deviation that they're seeking approval for is to setbacks. So in conventional single-family residential zone districts, it sets forth a criteria for PADs, which is you need to provide at least one 10-foot side yard setback on every lot. They're requesting to provide a minimum of 8 feet between units. their argument is that you don't need to provide an area as wide as 10 feet because really the purpose of that requirement in traditional neighborhoods is to ensure adequate access to your backyard for things like pools and other amenities that you would see in the backyards of a traditional single-family neighborhood. This will have private enclosed outdoor areas to the sides or the rear of these rental units, but it's not going to be used in the same manner that you would find in a traditional neighborhood. And so you don't need to have that wide of access area. The other deviation is to the number of floor plans and elevations. So the 2003 residential design standards require a minimum of 5 floor plans, each with 3 distinct elevations. They're actually coming close to meeting this request. They are providing 5 distinct floor plans and 2 elevations. They're also providing 10 color schemes where 3 is the minimum. So for a complex where all these units are rented, they're actually providing a lot of diversity to give this development the appearance of a single-family neighborhood. And they're providing a mixture of single and 2-story homes, which also helps with the variety of design. The last standard that they're seeking an exception to is in regard to patio covers. So the design standards require a rear or side yard covered patio on every home. They are asking that that standard be deleted, but they are providing a minimum of an 8-foot deep enclosed private outdoor area. And all of the front entries to the units are covered, so it does provide a patio-like appearance to the home. Should Planning Commission consider this request tonight, I want to outline the next steps going forward. City Council would consider this request upon the recommendation of Planning Commission at its June 21st City Council meeting. And then Planning Commission would be scheduled to consider the major site plan for this project at its July 1st meeting, subject to council's approval of the PAD amendment. And then the second city council reading would be on July 6th for this PAD. And assuming that it gets approved, the next steps for the applicant would be to submit for site development and building permit review, which is administrative. Regarding the public notification, the notification efforts did meet, if not exceeded, that which is set out by the city code. That involved a notice being published in the Casa Grande Dispatch. Owners of property within 300 feet of this site were mailed a notice, and a sign was posted on the site by the applicant. Staff has not received any inquiries or comments as a result of these notification efforts. Staff does recommend that Planning Commission forward a recommendation to City Council to approve this amendment to the Los Prados PAD, subject to one technical modification, which is to revise the signage portion of the PAD guide to provide reference to the bungalows at Florence location and its signage needs as it currently references another location. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff?
We're just approving the project. We're not approving the plate stand as far as roads or deal. We don't worry about it until the next meeting, correct?
Chairman.
So we can, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Chairman Miller, Commissioner Dugan, you're correct. Yeah, well, at the major site plan stage, you get to go a little bit more into the weeds in terms of the traffic circulation and the impact the site has onto other matters such as drainage.
So yeah, just zoning today. Because they just need to rezone it so they can bring forward the major site plan.
Right.
Question member McBride.
I just have a comment. I'm really pleased, because you don't see it all the time, that the 3 developers in that area are working together. I mean, it's a big advantage when you get everybody around you on the same plan with it going, and it looks like, you know, they want what's best for all of them in this. So I'm pleased with them doing what they're doing.
Any other questions? Okay. With that, then, the applicant and/or representative like to come forward on Zoom?
Correct.
All
You're on
right.
Zoom.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Kyle Barkello from RVI Planning here at 120 South Ash Avenue, Suite 201 in Tempe, Arizona. Thank you for the opportunity tonight to discuss this PAD amendment. Just kind of an overall statement on this one. This Los Prados PAD was approved back in 1986, so this property has sat vacant for quite a long time now, and the market conditions never really justified developing this property, and now with the influx of housing demand in the city of Casa Grande and the needed commercial along Florence Boulevard, we're really primed to bring forth this PAD amendment and really update it and bring it and bring it to the city of Casa Grande and more homes and more future development. I did just want to state and say thank you to James. It's always a pleasure working with staff because a lot of these codes don't really recognize this hybrid style development just yet, and a lot of municipalities are starting to update their ordinances to figure out how to address some of these unique elements to the design of the bungalow style products. So we always appreciate really the back and forth with staff and coming to some agreements on how to move forward with the best quality product and the best design. As it relates to the other commissioner's statement on working with the adjacent property owners, we agree 100%. It's in our best interest to work closely with them, and want to also thank staff as well for getting all parties together to talk about that alignment of the roadway confluence all at kind of the center of those property lines, as you can kind of see right at the north of our entrance as coming off of Florence Boulevard. So we are consistently going to continue to work with those property owners and make sure everything is meeting the city standards, and we're going to try our best to make this a well-flowing and circulating environment. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the commission has.
Thank you for joining us this evening. Any questions for the applicant? All right, no questions. You got off the hook easy tonight. We'll get you at the next meeting.
That's right.
Fair enough.
Well, we appreciate it. All right, with that, I will open it up to the public. Anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda? Oh man, I'm just kidding.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. John McGuire, 1748 North St. Francis Place. I just want to add my thanks for the consideration of REI and the other developers. After our Whataburger meeting, I mentioned this possibility and wished that this would occur. And I'm very pleased that staff and them, and hopefully you will approve this tonight. And then I'm looking forward to seeing exactly what the details of this central entrance for the area will be on the site plan. So I'm going to push a little bit more RVI, if you can listen. It's not only a circulation issue that I was hoping we solved a little bit with this, but an aesthetic one. So I'm hoping you are going to consider landscaping and aesthetics in this entrance and make it something that along Florence and down that corridor to your property will be something enjoyable for the people to drive back and forth on. So other than that, I'm in support of the motion and look forward to this project when it moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, anybody else from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Seeing nobody, I will close the public portion.
Mic on?
Sure.
I'd like to make a motion to forward to the city council to approve BSA 21-00012, major amendment to the Los Prados PAD, subject to the listed technical modifications.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? I just have one quick question. It's not going to change the way I feel about it, but the back setback, you said it was 25 feet currently? Is that correct?
That's
to
what
the
they're
residential,
proposing.
that little corner?
Yes.
And what's standard for commercial?
So to clarify, the existing neighborhood to the south has a required setback of 20 feet. This PAD that would apply to this development has a minimum rear setback of 25 feet.
Okay.
the existing PAD for the multifamily has a currently a minimum rear setback of 20 feet. So it's actually going to expand from 20 to 25.
Perfect. Thanks for the clarification. All right, any other discussion? All right, Natalie, call the roll.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Member Benedict,
Aye.
Member Dugan,
Yes.
Vice Chairman McBride,
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. All right. We look forward to seeing you guys at the next meeting.
Thank you very much.
All right, next item. Public hearing and consideration request by Neil Beezer of RKAA on behalf of Simon CRE. We've got two items in this, DSA 21-00082 and DSA 21-00081. Mr. Gagliardi.
So as you introduce this item, you're correct. There are two items being requested this evening for AmeriPark RV and boat storage. The first is a major PAD amendment to the Border Patrol Station PAD, and the second request is for the approval of a major site plan. The request is to develop a 5.46 acre site to allow or accommodate an approximately 232 stall covered RV and boat storage facility identified on the screen there to the left. The current zoning for this property is known as the Border Patrol Station PAD. This zone district allows the use, but an amendment to the PAD is necessary to reflect this site as its own land use area, and it's an opportunity to provide development standards such as signage and specific setbacks to help confirm that the proposed major site plan complies with what it is that they're requesting to develop. The major site plan itself would be for the placement of the facility and its site features. Here's just a quick excerpt of the site plan. There's not a whole lot of detail because it's buildingless. There will be canopy structures covering all of the stalls, but there's actually no office building proposed on the site. Any patron of this facility will have been given an access code to access the site through the gates, and other than the canopies themselves, there will be a fence surrounding the property and landscaping. And I'll talk about that detail on some upcoming slides. But first, I want to go back to the PAD amendment request. As I mentioned, this is within the Border Patrol Station PAD. The PAD zone district is just shy of 15 acres. Currently, the PAD land use map identifies this as two lots. The Border Patrol Station lot, which is 3.36 acres, and it identifies Lot 2 to the south as nearly 11.5 acres in size. What they're proposing to do is only develop the southern portion of that empty lot, so therefore it prompts a PAD amendment to identify it as a separate development area. And although the allowed use is stated, it allows commercial uses, which can be extended to imply RV storage and boat storage. The existing PAD guide is very light in detail with regard to particular setbacks, parking standards, signage requirements, and so this is an opportunity for the PAD to specify those elements. Because the use is allowed, this type of PAD amendment does not need to go to council for consideration. It's basically a companion document to the major site plan. But accordingly, there's a number of recommended conditions and technical modifications pertaining to this PAD amendment. The PAD guide needs to state the setbacks and heights that would comply with what they're reflecting on the major site plan, and provide some additional detail just to ensure that what the major site plan is proposing jives with the PAD guide. But the primary condition and technical modification I want to talk about is regarding signage. So our standard sign code does not provide signage detail for PAD zones. The PAD zone itself has to set forth its own signage standards, or otherwise make reference to this shall comply with the B2 signage requirements. And so there's an opportunity here for the PAD guide to propose signage for the AmeriPark RV and boat storage facility. So there's a couple of recommendations that come from that. The PAD guide should provide signage requirements for any planned signage along Camino Marcado frontage. We're recommending a monument-style sign only, not to exceed 10 feet in height. And then also, they are proposing a pylon sign along I-10, but the condition that staff is recommending that height be limited to 70 feet, and that it must provide space for additional signage for the undeveloped portion of this PAD. The reason why we are recommending a maximum height of 70 feet in co-location of future signage is due to the fact that to the north of the Border Patrol Station PAD, the Casa Grande Health Center is allowed to have pylon signs as tall as 70 feet. But as you see on that graphic, it's designed to accommodate multiple tenants within that PAD. The U-Haul sign to the south is 65 feet, and it also is designed to accommodate signage for multiple tenants. So we want to ensure that any additional pylon sign that is constructed is designed in such a way that it can accommodate multiple users. Regarding the major site plan request, I gave a quick overview with it a few slides back. However, I am going to just walk through some of the site plan features. The first is regarding the fact that this does abut Camino Marcado. It's located just north of the existing U-Haul. The half-street dedication for Camino Marcado has already occurred. No additional right-of-way dedications needed. It's currently sitting at 42 feet wide. They will have to add sidewalk abutting this portion of the site. The other thing I want to point out is that they are proposing a 6-foot-high screen wall. One of the requirements is that this screen wall, with at least when within view of I-10 and Camino Marcado, be designed to match the screen wall that is surrounding U-Haul for compatibility purposes. They are providing 2 points of access, one on the far north and one on the south. As I mentioned, this will be gated. They're providing 3 parking spaces. That's determined to be adequate. There is no office building on the site. The purpose of the 3 spaces would be primarily for if someone's about to embark upon a road trip, or they're coming back from a road trip and there's a passenger car following them, they can park there while the person accesses their RV or parks their RV. This is a snapshot of the preliminary landscape plan that's provided. As you can see on the screen, really the primary landscape areas are on the far west, where it abuts Camino Marcado, and on the far east, where the property abuts I-10, to help soften the view of the development from both the view corridor of I-10 as well as along Camino Marcado. There's a number of conditions and technical modifications that staff is recommending be done prior to staff's ability to offer final approval to this. It's just some cleanup items. We are requesting that they provide elevation typicals of what these canopies are going to look like, what the wall is going to look like, clarify some typos on the note, or on the plan rather. They need to call out the distance of the front setback from the canopies to the property line, and some other general notes that the staff report dives into in greater detail. When reviewing amendments to PADs and major site plans, it's subject to following certain set of criteria. The staff report analyzes these criteria in full detail. But so for the essence of time, I'm not really going to get into each one of these criteria. I primarily just want to talk about the compliance with the general plan. So this site sits entirely within the commerce and business land use designation of the 2030 general plan. This type of development is an appropriate use for the commerce and business general plan designation, and as a PAD, it's an appropriate zone district. As far as the notification process is concerned, there was notification mailed to owners of property within 300 feet. There was publication in the dispatch, and a sign was posted on the site. There were no comments provided as a result of these notification efforts. Staff does recommend that Planning Commission approve the amendment to the Border Patrol Station Planned Area Development, subject to the conditions and technical corrections in your staff report. And we also make a recommendation that Planning Commission approve the major site plan, subject to the conditions and technical corrections in your staff report. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Member Benedict.
What prompted you to pick 70 feet over 65 feet over for the sign?
Chairman Miller, Commissioner Benedict, the reason was because they were requesting a height of 75 feet. And I looked at the existing approved pylons to the south and north. While U-Haul was approved at 65, their neighbor to the north was approved at 70. So I went with 70 because we approved it, and that was the most recent approval that came in front of Planning Commission, I believe in either 2013 or 2014. So I'm recommending that Commission consider giving them the same height that we afforded to the property to the north.
You got a follow up?
Yeah.
You got a follow up to that?
Do you know the size of the ones across the freeway? Isn't there one at the Sam's Club?
I don't know the height right off the top of my head. There are pylons. There is a pylon sign for Sam's Club, and then on the north side of Florence Boulevard, there's some signs for the promenade.
They're pretty short, I think. Okay, thank you.
Member Dugan.
You say screen fence, you mean it's gonna be block, right?
Correct.
Okay, that's all I want to know.
Our concern is mostly for the view of I-10 and from Camino Mercado. Personally, if they want to go with a type of fencing that's different along the north and south boundaries, I would not have as much concern because, first of all, you can't see the development on the south because U-Haul is directly abutting it.
Yeah.
And then when development happens to the north, it would block any sort of view of what fencing they go with on that side.
Member McBride?
Yeah, I had a question about, I know on the east side of it, there's some type of pathway. Does this encroach upon that pathway? I didn't see it in the drawings or anything.
So
Is that what the dark line is?
immediately to the east of the site is the Cox Road Alignment, and it's not a right-of-way, but there's a couple of different things going on in that area. There's the canal that runs in that area, and that's also an area that's identified in our regional trail plan for a future linear park trail. But the plan was reflective of a Alta survey, and it excludes that pathway area. It's outside of that.
Okay, and I had one more question, and I may have just missed it in your presentation. How tall are these structures going to be that they park underneath? How
I'll have the applicant address that, because that's actually one of the recommended technical corrections, is that height is not stated or provided anywhere in their documentation.
Okay, thank you. That's all I needed.
We have not provided any guidance on that.
We have not. I would imagine the height that they're gonna propose is what is going to need to be to cover a standard RV. I'm sure there's a set height in mind. I don't think it's gonna be anything too over the top tall, but that detail will be important for both the major site plan and their proposed PAD amendment, because currently the Border Patrol Station PAD allows a maximum height of 26 feet. And so if it's going to be taller, then the PAD amendment needs to reflect that. And that is something that is approvable without involving city council action, because it's a development standard, it doesn't affect a specific use.
So, okay, so we are going to recommended to approve an amendment without having information that needs to be included in the amendment.
You captured that correctly.
Okay.
Another way
That's
to
right.
look
All right, just so I'm understanding.
Another way to look at it is right now their maximum allowed height is 26. So
currently that's where we got it at. Technically, it's
Right.
it's
long as it's
we're
not over
amending, we're
26.
approving an amendment at 26 feet.
Correct.
If it's higher than that, then the applicant would have to come back in front of us for another amendment.
Well, I would let that decision be up to you. I think if they have an opportunity to speak this evening with what their height is.
Sure.
If they say they need 28 feet and you're comfortable with agreeing
Including
to
that.
if they revise their PAD guide and major site plan and it's at that 28 feet height, then if you're comfortable with staff approving that, then we could go forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
Never been. Did you have a question?
No, I was on, you and I were on the same
You're tracking the
wavelength.
same-
I think we need to say one way or the other.
Sure.
Not
Okay.
just allow it to
Just be. To just be.
just allow it.
Hello, this is,
Yeah, hang on just one second. We'll finish up any other questions for staff, and then we'll bring you forward. If you're the applicant, I am assuming. So is there anything else? Is everybody good on questions for staff? Yeah? All right, now, applicant. You're on Zoom there?
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. You want to give us your name and?
Good afternoon. Sorry? Neil Fieser from RKA Architects, 2233 East Thomas Road, Phoenix, Arizona, 85016.
And this is Jonathan Strother, and I'm with Simon Commercial Real Estate, 6900 East 2nd Street, Scottsdale, Arizona.
Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this evening.
Additional, there's a Diva Driver also on behalf of the applicant. Sorry, there are a few of us here. I also work at Simon CRE, just pitching in. I'll let the two gentlemen take over here, but if there are any additionals in regards to height and such, I will chime in and comment as well.
Fantastic. Well, it looks like we have the resources we need to get to the bottom of this evening, so thank you all for joining us.
A little bit, do appreciate it. So like I said, my name is Jonathan Strother, and we represent Mirror Park Covered Storage. As of right now, there's an existing product in Tucson, Arizona. It's doing wonderful, and right now we are in the works of various other projects in Waddell, Mesa, and Murano as well. And obviously, our goal is to provide adequate coverage to RV and boat storage, and all tenants, we should say, will have 24/7 access, and we are working toward producing a fantastic product to the city. Wanted to add that regarding the canopy structure, as of right now, everything is in the preliminary stages, but with our proposals, we have the canopy dimensions will vary with 15-foot minimum clearance. Nothing is set in stone yet, but as of right now, we are working toward a minimum of 14 feet, if that obviously answers the commission's questions earlier. And obviously going with what
James has been doing with the presentation, which has been wonderful. James has been absolutely fantastic during this whole process, and he has really made this process very easy for Adiba and myself and the other representatives for this project, and just want to say thank you for that.
Great. So I think, real quick, if I can.
And going again, in terms of addressing the concern here of being below 26 feet, I don't think that should be an issue for the projects that we have developed. They have been below that.
Perfect. I think that was the key piece of information that we needed, was just simply whether the existing 26 feet was appropriate, or if you would like to pitch an amendment to that so we could include it. So thank you for that clarification. Are there any other questions for the applicant?
Yes, I have one. Are you going to include electrical hookups for the RVs? And how about sewer cleanout for the RVs?
We will not be having electrical hookup. We will have a dump station just south of where the 3 parking stalls are inside the center.
I will actually correct that, Jonathan. We might be having electrical hookup in my other project in Waddell. We did have electrical outlets connected on the stalls of the canopies. So that is in the works here as well.
Fantastic. Any other questions?
Yeah, could you, any comments that you would have about the size of the, pylon sign out on the freeway side? I'd like to hear that.
Well, we originally had thought about doing just a larger size, just in terms of marketing and visibility along the I-10. But at this point, we understand the staff's concern, and we're okay with the staff's proposal of 70 feet. The only concern we have is making it shareable, and that's something we have to discuss internally in terms of who is going to bear the cost. Obviously, this is not going to be a cheap production here. It's going to be costly. We've gathered some proposals ranging from over $100,000 to build this pylon sign. So I don't know how in the past U-Haul and other developers have handled that, sharing a pylon sign that they're building with other developers. That's something we can discuss offline and determine.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, any other questions? No? Great, well, thank you again for all of you being here this evening, and we appreciate it, and always excited to see new projects coming forward. So with that, I will open it up to the...
And I also echo the sentiment from my colleague here. Absolutely incredible to work with staff that is capable, knowledgeable, and intelligent. So it's been an absolute pleasure.
Glowing reviews.
Thank you.
All right, so with that, I will open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Seeing nobody, I will close the public portion. Bring it back to the commission.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
All right.
Make a motion to approve the amendment to the Border Patrol Planned Area Development DSA 21-00081 with the listed conditions and technical corrections.
I'll second that.
Mr. Chairman?
Motion and second. Do I have some discussion, Member Benedict?
Yeah, I think we need to, I just hate to leave it open that they can come back later and say, okay, we want to have a 40-foot high canopy. I think it makes sense for us to say, because the way this language is, it just seems to me to just leave it open to to throw out whatever, and I just,
It says 26 feet's the max right now. This doesn't say it, but the rules say 26 feet is the max.
Yeah, but it just, I guess on the technical correction, it says, revised PAD narrative wrong one.
narrative and development says
Oh, yeah,
setbacks
that's right.
and maximum
So development
structure heights of consideration of approval by the staff, and I just, maybe I'm being too picky, but
Well, you think that the staff's gonna approve a 40-foot high structure,
I don't
and you
know.
don't want them to.
Well, they're kind of,
You know, they're gonna approve a 75-foot high shade, but a 70-foot sign. That's what you're concerned about.
Hey, why are they worried about the height of it? That's 14, 15 feet is how high to go. If they go to 26 feet, that costs them a lot more money, so that'd be crazy.
it would be.
It's not my money.
That's exactly right.
It's gonna be 14, 15 feet, so why worry about it, guys?
So the way that staff interprets number 2, that condition, is that we're asking the applicant to tell us what the maximum height is for the shade structures, but in no case would we approve anything other than higher than 26. So they may tell us that it's 15 feet, and that's fine, but we're not approving anything
Yeah.
higher than 26.
So, because of the existing PAD, you just want the technical correction because it's not currently stated.
Right,
And so you're more about, hey, tell us what it is.
exactly,
Oh, wait, time out, it's 28. We gotta go back.
right.
Okay. Does that make you feel better? You gonna sleep at
I'm
night?
gonna shut up.
All
I'm
right.
good.
Any other discussion? No? Natalie, call a roll.
Member Peters.
Aye.
Member Benedict.
Yes.
Member Dugan.
Yes.
Vice Chairman McBride.
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. All right. Congratulations on getting that part done.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move to approve DSA -21-00081 for a major site plan to allow for RV boat storage facility to accommodate a wall facility featuring canopies with 232 stalls. And with the staff recommendations.
Second.
Motion and second. All right, hang on, now I gotta go back over here, because now you got me wondering.
Were
Like,
they
are we
both
approving
81?
site plans and we don't have setbacks, we don't have? Wasn't that in the previous one, or that just was technical modifications?
They're not,
Yeah?
So the major site plan recommendation
Yeah.
is that we do recommend that you approve the major site plan for the AmeriPark RV boat and storage, basically with one condition. I didn't talk about it during the presentation, but it is with regard to site lighting. That the city has the ability to request that the light be additionally shielded should there be concerns raised in terms of glare along I-10 in the Mission Royale neighborhood. And then there's a number of technical corrections, just basically providing elevations, that they clarify some typos, clarify the fact that this is not zoned I-1, provide a call-out distance from the canopy to the front property line, provide a parking standard on there. Currently, it says 1 parking space per 250 square feet of commercial area. That would seem to imply that it would need dozens of parking spaces since they have 5 acres of commercial area. I don't think that was intended. And just, there's just a couple of cleanup items on there that would have to be updated.
That was 82 or 81?
Yeah.
That one's 81.
That was 81, because
To me,
I
that's
said
the site
81
plan.
in the one I did.
Yeah, but if they're looking for what's the front setback? How close can that shade structure be?
So the front setback would have to mimic the height of the canopy. So if the canopy's 15 feet tall, the front setback's allowed to be 15.
So, okay. Commercial, okay.
In a
I'm trying to wrap my head around, because like, how many projects have we done where it's like setbacks of X amount of feet? But
So
it's
in a-
based on building height,
in a
and since we don't really have a
PAD
building,
Right, where it's because this is a PAD, not a traditional zone
Sure.
district, there actually are no setbacks provided currently in the PAD. So we have to default to city code, which says that from a PAD perimeter, the setback is determined by the height of the building, or structure. So if they have a,
26-foot structure, it's
right,
gotta
then
be
it has to be
26 feet from
26
the property
feet
line.
from the perimeter of the PAD, which is Camino Mercado.
Right.
On the west, it's their south boundary that borders U-Haul, and it's their east boundary that borders I-10.
So that's, I guess, where I default back to, we gotta approve a major site plan. Just assuming that all those things happened, but what was provided, we don't know if that happened.
I would recommend that you look at it as they have to provide that detail, and if it's compliant with those standards that are in place for minimum setbacks from the PAD boundary, then staff would be able to approve it. If it's something that is different from that, then it would need to have additional planning commission consideration.
I like the way you think. I think that's a good thought process. That solves my problem with this. Is everybody else good?
My only problem is I made a motion on the wrong number.
Oh, let's get that corrected.
Yeah, because I said 81.
Oh.
The one we voted on last.
I didn't even catch that. Look at, I'm usually
No.
pretty good with my numbers around here.
No, you're right.
Motion's on the floor, I call for question.
You're right.
Wait,
It's 81. It was 82 earlier.
we're good on the number?
I just want to make sure that
The first motion was on 82, and this motion is on 81. Is that
and
right?
I said 81 when I
I know,
made the
but,
motion.
but you intended to say
Okay.
82.
I intended to say 82, if we
Right.
could make that correction.
We will, the minutes will reflect the motion
We'll
was on
reflect the
82.
motion on 82. Perfect. All right, we got
Currently have
the
a
call for
motion
the
on
question.
81.
I didn't want someone to run into problems down the road.
All right, now that we call a roll, please.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Member Benedict,
Yes.
Member Dugan,
Yes.
Vice Chairman McBride,
Yes,
Chairman Miller,
Yes. All right. Motion approved. Congratulations, guys, on those steps. Good luck. Hope it meets all those technical modifications or corrections. Otherwise, we'll
Yes,
see.
thank you, everyone.
Otherwise, we'll see you again.
Thank you.
All right. There it is. I lost part of my agenda. All right, so at this time, I will do a call to the public. Anybody from the public want to come up and voice your opinion? Seeing nobody, I'm going to close it. Reports by the planning director.
So we have a couple minor site plans to report on. The first was for Tenna Transport on Jimmy Kerr. They added a perimeter security fence that we approved administratively. We also approved administratively a minor site plan for the city's public safety facility on Val Vista to add covered parking and security fence. We approved a minor amendment to a major site plan to allow a car wash at the northeast corner of Treco and Courtson to be converted to a nail salon. Kind of a different thing. So those are our administrative approvals. City Council made a number of decisions regarding Planning Commission recommendations. They approved the major amendment to the McCartney Ranch PAD regarding the multi-generational housing design that was approved for, I believe that was Richmond. Is that right, James? Was it Richmond?
Lennar.
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 Thank you for Lennar. Then they also approved the R3 rezoning for that 2.49 acre site on Schultz Street. And they also approved the zoning code text amendment to modify our regulations to accommodate adult use marijuana as well as our medical marijuana that we had currently. On monthly reports, we provided those to you, and you can see that we had a record-setting month of 262 single-family permits in May, so we're very busy, and kudos to Noah because he reviewed every one of those. So, working just 20 hours a week, so great job, Noah. So, housing starts continue to be strong. And you might notice on the planning projects list, you know, for this fiscal year, we've done 167 in 11 months. We typically do about 110, which is why your agendas are kind of longer these days, because the planning projects are coming in at a heavier workload as well as the building permits. So that's all I have to report, Mr. Chair.
Before the Great Recession hit, how many homes were you building a month, the best month? Was it above 262 a month?
When was that, Commissioner Doug?
Before the 2007-8, before the Great Recession hit, were we up to 300 houses a month?
No, I think this exceeds that.
Okay. We're getting there, aren't we?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
No,
Aye.
Just grab it, it's like the symbol.